Welcome to the Note Nuggets podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome to another episode of the Note Nuggets podcast, where you learn how to turn other people's debt into income for your savings or IRA. When it comes to your 401k, you have limited options to choose from for parking your money. You probably have a target date fund option, maybe a handful of ETFs, or other funds. You most likely cannot invest in individual stocks, nor can you invest in things outside of the stock market. Now, what if I told you there was a type of retirement account that gives you full control? It gives you the ability to invest in quote-unquote alternative assets, which includes things like real estate and, my favorite, of course, promissory notes. The account we're talking about today is called a self-directed IRA. And if you want to learn more about a self-directed IRA, head over to notenuggets.com/SDIRA-definition. With the self-directed IRA, you cannot just open it with a Fidelity or a Schwab or a Trade America or one of those types of big custodians. You'll have to talk to specific companies called custodians that will facilitate and administer your self-directed IRA. Currently, there are dozens of self-directed IRA companies out there, and trying to find the right one can be overwhelming. That's why I brought on an expert to share what people can think about as they're deciding on which custodian to go with. But first, let's learn about our guest. Jason DeBono has 15 years of experience in the self-directed IRA industry. He is the corporate vice president at New View Trust Company, a self-directed custodian with over $1.4 billion under custody, where he oversees the day-to-day activities of New View Trust. He is a subject matter expert in tax-advantaged investing through retirement accounts. When it comes to selecting New View as a custodian, and there are others out there, how do you educate people, or how do you guide them into figuring out who that is that they want to go with?
Yeah, I mean, selecting the right custodian is kind of like selecting a brokerage. You know, even though there's Schwab and Fidelity and TD Ameritrade, there's some nuances between them all. And just like with New View Trust, there's a good handful of companies that do what we do. We're certainly not the only gig in town. We always recommend a couple things. Number one, education. So get on their website, get on their YouTubes, their social media, understand how invested are they in your knowledge, because that's critical. Because no one is going to become a client and understand it all, right? And even though they may understand the investment they want to make very well, they don't understand all their choices and options. So they need good quality education. I think that's paramount. And there's some great companies that provide some great content out there. The second thing is communication. You know, how do you want to be served? Do you want to be served online? Do you want to be served over the phone? Is email a tool? And communicate with them under that premise and find out if that's a method of communication. There's some groups that are, a lot more tech forward, but you'll never get anyone on the phone. There's some groups where you'll get someone on the phone, but their tech stuff is lagging. So, that's a big one. And then the third one is responsiveness. It's that Pepsi challenge. I always encourage people, when you pick up the phone, never call the sales team. They're too incentivized to answer quickly. Call the operations folks. If they answer quickly, then the responsiveness is going to be high. But never judge a customer service organization based on how well their sales team answers, because they'll always do a good job. So we always encourage people to pick up the phone. And, just for perspective, we answer 99% of our calls in under a minute. That's a stat we track and very close, and we track it on a weekly basis and incentivize our team to hit those numbers.
99% within a minute. That's awesome. That is great. And how you track that is actually, I never thought about that, but from a metric of customer service standpoint, that's something you could definitely write about.
Awesome. Yeah, it's important to us for sure.
So for somebody that may not exactly know what the role of a custodian would be, how would you explain that to them?
So if it's easiest to kind of explain what people are familiar with. So we serve, in theory, an identical role to Charles Schwab, right? We house your IRA. We buy the investments that you ask us to buy. We hold those investments in custody on behalf of the account, and then we do the annual reporting to the IRS. That's how we're the same. So at the end of the day, we're IRS, reporters and record keepers. What is different is two things from Schwab. Number one, we don't restrict your investment choices to stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So the types of assets that you're asking us to buy are going to differ greatly, right? People are coming to us because they want to buy a non-performing note, for example, or issue a private loan rather than buying 1,000 shares of Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is, as a custodian, Newview Trust is 100% passive, non-fiduciary. So if you go to Schwab, you can get someone on the phone or in some way, shape, or form get some advice and counsel, guidance. At Newview, it's a self-directed account. So we're not here to tell you what to do. We're just here to hold your assets for you. So we can educate you on the rules and regulations and what to do, but we'll never tell you it's good or bad. That's the beauty of what we do, is it's the self-direction. It gives you the control.
Yeah, you have the true direction as a self-directed IRA member or holder, and that's what I love about it. A self-directed IRA is a powerful tool for creating financial security for you and your family. To learn how you can invest in notes with a self-directed IRA and try to figure out which custodian to go with, head over to notenuggets.com/different-custodians.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.